Okay, so I'm going to work a problem from the Hyperbolas worksheet number 2, right? This is one that we did in class on the 24th of February on a Tuesday, right before we started practicing to review for the quiz. Right, so on number 2, okay, you are going to, the question was to put it in standard form of a hyperbola. Okay, so that was the directions. So we're going to have to group together, because this is not standard form. So we're going to group together the x's and the y's. If you decide, and it doesn't matter, but I'm going to kind of look at it. If you'll notice, you have a y squared and an x squared. And if you look at your y squared, it has a positive value, and your x squared has a negative value. Okay? That means that because it's a hyperbola, the y squared is going to go first. If you went ahead and grouped your x's together and put them in front, and then you grouped your y's together and put them next, you could have just moved them around later, okay? But because I notice in advance that my y squared is positive, I know that it's gonna have to go first. And later on, if I get it worked out and it isn't the sign I want, I can rearrange it. So I'm gonna take my 5y squared, okay, minus my 40y. It's a hyperbola, so I need a minus in the middle. Then I put the x's together, which is going to give me, now, I need the negative out here, so I'm going to take the negative out to give me 4x squared. And it also changes the sign here, so it gives me plus 16x, right? Because if I have a negative outside, this is a negative 4x and negative 16x, equals 36. Now to get it in the right form, we have to complete the square. So we're going to factor a 5 out of this set and a 4 out of this set. So you factor the 5 out, and then I factor the 4 out. Okay, and in a hyperbola, it has to equal 1, so we're going to divide everything by 36, right? But before I can do that, I've not completed this square, so I've got to finish up. Half of 8 is 4, so I'm going to add 16. But this is 16 times 5. Don't forget about that 5 out there. So 16 times 5 means I'm going to add an 80. Half of 2 squared is 4. Half of 4 squared is 2. Okay, then so you get 4. Don't forget there's a negative 4 out here, and that's what's going to make it different. Negative 4 times 4 is negative 16. All right? So now finish up. You get y minus 4 squared. Bring down your 5. Minus 4 times x plus 2 squared equals, in your calculator you can type all this in and you get 100. You want it to end in 1, not 100, so divide everything by the 100. So reduces to y minus 4 squared over 20 minus x plus 2 squared over 25 equals 1. So there you have it in the correct form that you need. Be careful about finding the center of this problem. Okay, the center of this problem, remember, center is x, y. Well, they're out of order. Remember that the lead fraction is what is the major axis in a hyperbola. So the y is the major axis. So the center here is actually negative 2, 4. You gotta write them down backwards. So therefore, this is a squared and this is b squared. So a belongs to plus or minus the square root of 20, which reduces. So this is the square root of 20, but it actually reduces down to 2 root 5. And which axis am I going to move 2 root 5 on? The y-axis. Now go to b. b is represented by the x-axis. So it's going to be plus or minus the square root of 25, which is 5, and it's on the x-axis. So let me show you something for just a second. Okay, so to build this hyperbola, I'm going to go over here, negative 2, 4. Okay, and then I'm going to say, all right, A, remember on a hyperbola, A is a distance from the center to your vertex. So I'm going to slide 2 root 5 to get to my vertex, which is approximately 4.5. On the y-axis, because that's the major axis, because that's what it opens up on. So if it's my center, I'm going to slide out 4.5 here and 4.5 down. And there's your vertex, guys. Okay, now then, in order to decide, I'm going to make a parabola here, right? In order to decide how wide it is, we use the slope to kind of give us a guide, right? And our slope is y over x. Okay, so it's kind of weird on this one. It's 2 root 5 over 5, which means about the same thing as 4.5 over 5. Okay, and you'll notice when you go over here to make this, when I go up 4.5, that's where I was before, and then over 5. Up 4.5 over 5. And so forth. Down 4.5 over 5. And in the past, okay, if you were going to build an ellipse, your ellipse would fall right in here. Okay? But we're not going to build an ellipse. Right? We're not going to put an ellipse inside. So we're going to use the slope that we just built to make your asymptotes. Correct? So here is your hyperbola. Go towards your asymptotes. So we're not going to cross them. It's going to give you a really wide parabola. They're mirror images of each other. Okay. So we just graphed the vertex, right? Well, let's go down here and talk about the vertex then. We know the vertex is plus and minus a. And we slid from the center, which is negative 2, 4, we slid up 4.5 and down 4.5 to get to these vertex. Right? In other words, 4.5 was a. So we slid up and down. That affected the y-axis. Okay, so in other words, or the y value. So if you look at these are all negative 2. This is going to be negative 2 way up here, negative 2, 4, negative 2 down here. So it's the x value is still negative 2 on all of these points because my major axis is y. So the y value is what changed. Well, how much did it change? Well, it was 4. Here we were at 4. We slid up, right? We slid up 4 plus, how much did we slide? We slid a, which is 2 root 5. So 4 plus 2 root 5. And then we're at 4 and we slid down 2 root 5. So 4 minus 2 root 5. Okay? The only thing we haven't graphed now is the foci. And we know the foci is going to be way up here and way down here. It's outside, right? It moves all the way inside your parabola on each end. So, and the foci is moved c, plus and minus c. So we've got to find c. And in a hyperbola, because this is minus, the formula to find c squared is a squared plus b squared. It's the opposite, remember? So you're going to add a squared and b squared together when they're right here. So 20 and 25, which is 45. So c is the square root of 45, which reduces to 3 root 5. And which axis are we going to move that on? Are we moving left and right or moving up and down? We're moving up and down on the y-axis. And you'll notice that whatever axis A runs on, which is y, is the same axis C runs on. So you're just going to go over here, and I went up 4.5 to get my vertice, see? And I'm going to go up 3 root 5 is approximately 6.7. So I'm going to go up 6.7 to get my focus, and down 6.7 for my other focus. Right? So those are your two foci. Now, to graph the actual point, I slid it up and down, not left and right, so the x stayed the same. In other words, I came over to negative 2 on both, and then at negative 2 I was at 4. I went from 4 all the way up 6.7 more, so that would be 4 plus 3 root 5, which is the same thing as 6.7. And then I was at 4 and I went down 6.7, which would be 4 minus 3 root 5. And that's going to give you your answer. Okay, now play the next video and I'm going to do parts of the back.